Test, test, test. Call today and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the office of the Governor of Guam for a very special press conference hosted by our Governor, Lulian Guerrero, to basically close out and to provide that final report on the Governor's School Opening Readiness Team, or the Governor's SORT, not to be confused with the Department of Corrections SORT, which is the Special Operations Response Team. I want to give the floor now to Governor, but actually let me first introduce who else is at the table. Alongside our Governor, Lulian Guerrero, on her left is former Speaker Judy Wampat, a longtime educator and the Governor's Education Advisor. On the Governor's right is Dominic Munya, the Deputy General Manager for Port Operations and the Co-Chair for the Governor's SORT. On Speaker's left, we have Mr. Warren Pelletier, Acting Director for the Department of Parks and Recreation. And on his left, we have Department of Public Works Director Vincent Ariola. Governor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Good afternoon, and to the people of Guam. In the spirit of open transparency, accountability, I wanted to hold this press conference to give the people of Guam a report on all the work that's been done the last month and a half to open the schools and to open them safely, so that our students can return to face-to-face education. And as I recall, in August 8th was the scheduled date for opening of schools. But unfortunately, the Guam Department of Education could not meet that August 8th opening for 18 schools. Some were open, but some were not ready to open and were not ready to pass its inspection. And so the August 8th opening was extended to August 22nd. Meanwhile, parents and the community at large were very concerned, and rightfully so, about the education of our children and about the fact that they would be missing school days. And so we took immediate action to try and get these schools safely opened. And as you recall, there was a sense of panic and concern throughout the community. Like I said, rightfully so. The legislature, for a good 2 whole weeks, tried to deliberate and discuss and figure out a way to make the schools safe and open. Unfortunately, no results occurred. And so our administration has always been very, very keen on educating our students. So we took it upon ourselves to call the superintendent and to ask him how we can help. And as a result, in discussions with the superintendent, I called my cabinet and I called autonomous agencies. And I was very glad that they were there, ready and open to do what we can to make our schools open and to meet the deadlines for our students. Everyone came to the table, very willingly committed to work hard as we normally do as a people when a crisis is at hand. It is exactly what happened. We then formed the SORT team, and it's called the School Open Readiness Team. It was under the chairmanship of John Kanata from the airport, and also Dominic co-chairing from the Port Authority. I want to also thank the autonomous agencies for coming to help. GPA, GWA, GVB, GIDA, the Solid Waste Association, the Solid Waste GMH, and I think those were NUOG, GCC. All these people committed to work together to help open our schools in a timely way. We worked hard and we pushed, and we had weekly meetings with our team We monitored and followed the results. We worked with public health very closely to see what we can do to help in making and in meeting the requirements that are needed to pass the inspections. I had asked former Speaker Judy Wampet to also be very involved, as she is our Special Assistant to Education. And you know Judy, when she works, she's committed. And Judy was very persistent. She worked closely with DOE. She worked closely with our team. And she was sort of the anchor, I think, in trying to move things along. We had meetings with the Guam Department of Education superintendent. We had meetings with all of cabinet. We organized it in such a way that we then assign agencies to various schools. And if you are following us through media, social media, you will see that every day work was being done. We then finally opened the last school in September, the end of September? October 9th. We finally got the Inalahan Middle School. And so now, as a result, our kids are back to school. We also are working closely with the GDOE to see how we can help in any way to maintain these safe schools. And there are many, many work that needs to be done. And I just would ask our parents and our children to work with us, and our public officials, our leaders, to work with us to try and help the Guam Department of Education maintain its maintenance of the schools and to continue on so that we can continue to have a safe educational environment. I have here former Speaker Judy Wampet and of course Dominic, and I'd like to also thank Warren and Vince from DPW and the Department of Parks and Recs for their very committed, dedicated work to get our schools open. And so why don't I hand this over then to Speaker Wampet so she can provide her report in detail.
Thank you very much, Governor. I'd just like to also thank especially Dominic and JQ, who have worked with them very closely in all the different departments and agencies. And I'd like to really thank all the agencies because they were asked not only to work, but they were also asked to give us progress reports every week. And based on all those reports, we were able to compile all of them, and I'd like to just share some numbers with you. So as of October the 22nd, the total man-hours of work performed at the schools came out to 9,667.6 hours. And the total labor cost in dollars is $262,634.62. For the equipment that were being used by our autonomous agencies and materials and supplies that they have provided came out to $146,483.44, and that does not include what DOE provided. So the overall cost as of today that was incurred with labor came out to $410,827.94. A lot of the really big departments and agencies that went out to help the last two schools, those numbers are still forthcoming, so you would start to see a different or an increase in these numbers. When we looked at DOE's Gantt report to see where the biggest areas are for us to determine where to send our skilled laborers, we found that 94% of all the schools had electrical problems, and equally were building problems, and 91% same thing, buildings and other areas. What our workers found when they were out there and were asked to do a lot of extra work, it came out to 4 areas: building, structure, wall ceilings, classrooms, and so forth. Plumbing was another big area. The toilets, urinals, sink replacement, showers, piping, water fountains. HVAC was another big area. We're looking at about 9,000 units that they were saying that needed to be maintained, repaired, and also replaced. And lastly was electrical for fixture replacements, appliances, and wirings. So based on everything that the workers did, our employees did, we came up with several recommendations for the government, for the legislature, for the Department of Education as well. One of them is that we need to revisit the public health rules and regulations, primarily to distinguish the difference between hygiene and health versus safe schools, and occupancy, and also dangerous versus non-dangerous environment. We also want to recommend to the Guam legislature and public health to consider alternate year inspections. There are 41 schools, and if we can do 20 schools in 1 year and then inspect the other 21 in the following year, that would definitely we would definitely be able to get our schools ready without having to rush or without having them to shut schools down for failure. We are also recommending that DOE hire or contract a maintenance manager who would oversee the maintenance of all the schools. We're asking that the management team and the superintendent and the board consider the following: the condition of the school, the age, infrastructure, declining enrollment, capacity of the school facility, cost of repairs, operating cost of an underutilized school, and overall financial difficulties or shortfall for the maintenance of 41 schools. We would like to continue this good working relationships with our schools, the community, and the government. And in conclusion, I want to thank the governor and her team, because the governor has demonstrated that this is only a temporary fix to the public schools. The governor cannot exercise exclusive power over DOE's operation, being that the legislature maintains oversight authority of GDOE and determines the parameters of its budget. It is incumbent on the senators to fund the department to the fullest to meet the needs of the operation and facilities so that we do not go down this road next year. Thank you.
I would like to ask Dominic now to give us some of his remarks about how we went through this.
Thank you, Governor. Immediately at the end of August, when the SORT team was activated, like the governor said, we assigned agencies and we went out there and did assessments. The first week of our operation, Estumbo Elementary and JM Guerrero were immediately open, and we reassigned those agencies to other schools. Some agencies tackled 4 or 5 different schools as they completed one agency. The 2 biggest ones that came down to the very end on October 9th was Inarahan and Southern High School, were the biggest problem areas, and we finally got those open. Even with the superintendent's drop dead date of no failure is not an option date of October 1st, it took us a little bit beyond that, and we went to October 9th. But it was well worth the wait, and we are thankful for public health in doing their very due diligence in the inspections and the write-ups, which got us to October 9th. So it was a very good relationship we established with DOE. And one of the things I would like to say is thanks to the principals. The principals really became managers and facilities maintenance people and procurement specialists. So a big shout out to the principals at each of the 18 schools that really made this happen. I would just like to say one of the frustrations we had was the typical government of Guam procurement, and then with the vendors not having the amount of supplies that we needed and waiting for shipments to arrive. That was some of the downfalls. But all in all, I would like to see DOE make some changes, because the status quo will just keep us in the same position. And if they make the right changes with the right schools and with the population that we have now at each school, I'm sure we can have a different experience when we come to opening of school next year. So, Governor, I want to thank you. It was an honor to be a part of this team. I would do it again, but once again, if DOE changes some of the ways that they operate and with the suggestions that Speaker Wampat came up with, I think we'll be in a better position next year. But thanks to our buddies over at Public Works and Parks and Rec, we made it happen. And once again, Southern High and in around the pool at Southern High was a big task, but we got it cleaned. It passed a sanitary inspection, and here we are today. So we're hoping that they can continue to just keep it clean, and it won't be an issue next year. But once again, Governor, thank you, and Vince and Warren, you can put in your experiences also.
Thank GWA as well. Yes, thank you, Governor. I just wanted to also mention that GWA was very helpful with us at Southern High School. Ray Chugaloff, I believe. Roy Chugaloff, yeah, him and his team really stepped up, and we appreciate Director Miguel for allowing his team to come down there and help us out at Southern High. Without their help and their manpower, I don't think we were able to meet the deadline. So for that, I'd like to thank GWA. They were very instrumental in helping us and your program here to get those schools open for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much, directors. I also
Can I add one more? I just wanted to say that like I was commenting and congratulating the principals. It was a very good relationship that we built with the principals. And to this day, we still continue to get calls for additional work from the principals because DOE facilities maintenance just doesn't have the manpower to take care of all of the 41 schools. So, the governor's instruction to us is once the school opens, our relationship kind of stops and ends. But with Speaker Judy's recommendations and the governor's approval, we're going to see how we can continue this relationship with the board and with the superintendent. So, we still get requests coming in as of today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, directors. And that was a great point that Don made relative to thanking our school principals. The numbers reported today do not account for all the volunteer hours from the community groups, for the families at the schools, and for all the nonprofit organizations and the military organizations that stepped forward. I now want to give the floor down to our members of the media. I do have Joe Titan from the Pacific Daily News.
I'm the member of the media today. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Wampat, thank you for those numbers. You mentioned that there are a couple of agencies that are still outstanding that haven't been accounted for. What agencies are those?
Well, there's actually a couple. One of them is DPW, primarily because, remember, these guys still have to take care of a lot of other regular work that they're mandated to do. But then they were practically in every school. So the way we were asking them to turn in the reports were for individual schools. So it's not like you take it cumulative and turn it into us. So that's, the difficulty in them giving it to us. But I understand that they're near there. This afternoon, I did receive one from Parks and Rec. So we're going to add those numbers in again. And the two others are the Department of Military Affairs and the National Guard. But those guys I know it's all federal, and maybe they don't want to claim it, and maybe that might be a reason for not turning in the numbers. But we wanted it just to show the number of man hours, and what it would have normally cost, let's say, the Department of Education if they were to do all this work.
Does that number account for the autonomous agencies that pitched in, or that's all executive line agencies?
No, it included the autonomous agencies. Like the governor said, we were very fortunate that they also wanted to help. We did not include now any of the nonprofit organization, any work done by the military, PTO, and others. This was strictly just autonomous agencies and line agencies.
Director Arreola, do you have any idea, and I guess sort of round numbers, how much money or man hours your agency had pitched in, since you're the big contributor?
Thanks, Joe. I don't have a number, but what we did is we actually started work before SORT even started. We had gotten calls for assistance from GDOE to assist with their school cleanup on the exterior. So we were doing work a month in advance of the actual SORT work that we were doing. So we've compiled just a huge amount of information and financial expenses that we've gone through in repairing the schools. And as the speaker said, we were just about at every single school. So it's going to be a big number. What that is, I don't have it right now. It's well into the six figures. I can tell you that right now. But it's something that we did at the direction of the governor. I'm certainly happy to do that. We hope it's a lessons learned moment and exercise from all the other agencies, and that if everyone goes back to the drawing board and we do things right over the next 12 months, we don't have to go through this again. But we're more than happy to help out.
Yeah, can I add? I just want to say one thing. In putting the numbers together, one of the big tasks that DPW had was removing of debris at the schools. And some of the debris that remained at the schools at opening date was debris from Typhoon Mawar. And we wanted to make sure that we separated that debris. Although we were removing it, it was debris where one government. We wanted to make sure if FEMA reimbursements were going to be applied to those activities, we wanted to make sure that we separated those accounts. Okay, so just when we say moving debris, we had to make sure, is it debris just from the school or was it debris from the typhoon? And even if we're a year and 6-7 months later after the typhoon, a lot of that debris still remains out there.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask, because there's been some concern with GDOE, they have been hit with a bill from, I think it was the University of Guam for some of the assistance, and they're worried they can't pay it, or they're not sure where the money's going to come from. Is this sum going to have to be paid back by the department, or how does that work?
Well, when we met with the chair of the board and also the superintendent, they had assured us that they would carry the cost of those numbers that really isn't coming from our line agencies. And of course, UOG is one of them. UOG stepped up to the plate. They actually had almost their whole maintenance department working with the DOE. And so, yes, those are invoices that need to be paid by the Department of Education.
But as far as the line agencies, they're not going to be getting a bill, or?
No.
Right? Okay.
We're absorbing that in our, budget.
Will they have to offset? I think maybe GURA, may have been a bill.
Yes.
And it had something to do with federal
So
funding?
GURA is federally funded, so they really have to do those recordings and accounting, and they do have to be paid because they are federally funded.
Can I add?
One of the benefits of doing this sort activity was the government to government relationship and not having to go to the procurement. So like UOG, they were able to use their procurement authorization to go out and resource air conditioning parts, electrical supplies and stuff like that. And those are the things that they need to get reimbursed for, because UOG, they generate revenue by tuition. So they want to make sure that they're spending their money the right way. But for this relationship to get the schools open, they helped with the procurement authority that they have to purchase the needed supplies immediately. So those are the things that need to get reimbursed.
Thank you, sir.
And UOG was very clear to have that understanding very early on with an MOU, a memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement, so that DOE was not surprised when they got this invoice.
Online questions or can we keep going? Can I ask about the word neglect has been thrown around, that a lot of these facilities have been neglected for a long time. I think the lieutenant governor said that after IMS passed, the superintendent has said that. In the final analysis, what's been the cause of that? How did we end up where we were, where the schools were in the state where they couldn't open?
I think from my perspective, as the speaker said, and in the recommendation, is we need to really beef up the maintenance capacity. We need to, or DOE needs to look at that and put resources to make sure that there are the individuals there from the maintenance department. I understand that the total number of employees at maintenance was at 1,200 and some staff, and now I think they're down to either 85. And so to maintain 41 schools on a regular basis and knowing that those buildings are old and require more serious maintenance, I think is a big challenge for the management of DOE. And so they need to seriously look and prioritize and make sure that, as we had said, that the maintenance is maintained. And there are other also deficiencies. Remember, if you pass, that doesn't mean that you pass 100%. That means you pass because you didn't go above the number of points, demerits, but there are still deficiencies that need to be followed up. And the superintendent is very much aware of this. A report has been given to them to follow up, and the maintenance facility people are also very aware of it. So it's incumbent on the management of GDOE to make sure that we are on top, that they are on top of this. So like we said, we don't go back to where it was this opening of this school year.
And thank you, Gov. And I understand, is there any concern about on the inspection end? Because there was also, some of these schools, LBJ Elementary, they had an A up until the point that they failed an inspection last year. And I think it had not been inspected since 2012. Is public health going to be able to keep up with the pace of those inspections?
I think once the legislature and the policies of DOE, and also we review the rules and regulations of the inspection requirements, I think they can, right? I think it's more doable and more reasonable. Once we look at all those policy changes that need to be made, still assuring that the schools are still, the children are still in a safe environment. But there are some regulations that we felt were just too harsh, I think, and the speaker said that what is dangerous versus not dangerous, what can be done to open, what cannot be done to not open. So those are some of the issues I think that need to be addressed from the Department of Education.
Can I add a little bit to that? One of the things that maybe Vince can add to this was, as we were in the schools, we were building our relationship and getting a good understanding from the principals. But there's a big difference between the sanitary inspection, an occupancy permit, and structural requirements. And one of the things that we found was that the principals, when we started coming into the schools, the principals were asking us to do everything and anything. And we paid attention to them, we listened to the principals, but there was a big difference between what a sanitary inspection entails, what an occupancy permit entails, and what a structural permit entails. So those were the big three differences. However, like I said, we tried our best to attack those issues, pay attention to the principals, and get the schools open. But maybe Vince can since he's public works, he can add a little bit to this.
Thank you, Tom. I mentioned this in one of my reports to the governor, that the application of the rules and regs with public health, social services, and with respect to DOE specifically, certainly needs to be taken a look at again. Clearly, there's misinterpretation, there's misapplication, if you will, of some of the rules, and in opening up of the school. So, what I suggested, Governor, is that we convene a task force of the DOE of individuals, a couple of engineers, folks from DPW, and perhaps individuals from your office as well, to go through these rules and regs, and a couple principals actually, because the principals need to know these rules inside and out, right? But I guess what they were saying, as Don alluded to, there's a lot of misinterpretation and just different application of the rules and regs, and depending who's inspecting, what time of day they're inspecting, what mood they're in, there's cause for concern there. But clearly, I think, yeah, I've read the rules myself, and they're not clear, they're not concise, so they need to be tightened up quite a bit. Yeah.
And I also let me just give you several examples where the department right now has requested for a variance for all the schools for their doors to open out. And that's for the egress. And then I found out on another standard under the fire department that in a building or classroom, let's say, that if the numbers are below 50, then that variance is allowable. That means the children will can safely exit the building. All DOE had to do was to give them like a copy of the board union contract that says that every teacher can only have a maximum of 28 students, plus the teacher is 29. So they really shouldn't get a demerit for that because fire department says it's 50, but DOE is the 29. So those are just some of the things that, we need to really look at. Then when it comes to lighting, they require so many candles in different parts of the buildings, different rooms. And depending on the day that they bring their meter, one side will be in compliance and another side of the building would not. So those are just some of the things I feel and we feel that all of us need to come together. And the fire department officials have actually told me that, and the same thing as DPW, there's some areas there in the rules and regs that do not belong in public health. When you're thinking of public health, you're thinking of hygiene and health, where somebody else would think of safety and another would think of occupancy, and then there's those that are dangerous and then the ones that are not dangerous. So it's a good thing that this is really happening now. So I think, in the future that it will be much better.
Thank you, Dr. Anyone? One last question. There's an ongoing audit related to alleged improper disposal of textbooks that happened during school cleanup. Was the SORT task force was very involved? Are there any reports? Was anyone at any time either witness to or asked to dispose of textbooks for any of the schools?
I think you probably should direct that question to the Department of Education. I don't think they saw it. Yeah.
The only thing that we know is that they have agreed, the superintendent has agreed that we will take those books that are stored at the PD warehouse so that then we can have them shipped to our neighboring islands. And that's part of the law and the process and where do you need to go. You first of all ask your community, you can ask the mayors, if they want to take the books, and if no one else wants it, then it says now to give it to other schools. And that's what, we're assisting with, is to get them to be shipped off island for free to other school children, in the region. But that's all we basically have.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for everyone tuning in.
Wait, Martin wanted to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge the hundreds of GovGuam employees that stepped up to the plate. They didn't bat an eye. They were there to do it for the kids and donated their tools and whatever supplies they had. Every day they brought their own tools and helped the SORT committee do what's needed for the kids and to get the schools open. So for them, I thank them for all their hard work over the past couple months.
Could I just also add that, what we saw during this whole SORT team work is a spirit of, I think, Inafat Malik, and a spirit of working together to help each other and lift each other up. And I think, we did it not under the guise of emergency as people were crying to declare a state of emergency. We did it under the great commitment and dedication and willingness to help each other. So I think that's a very telling value of our people here in Guam. We've seen it in the pandemic. We saw it Typhoon Mawar. We're just all very, let's put our hands together and work together. And I encourage that same kind of spirit moving forward.
Thank you, Governor, and to our esteemed panel joining us today. I just wanted to remind the public that the Guam Department of Education also has their State of Public Education address tomorrow. That's Tuesday, October 29 at 3 p.m. And so you can tune in for their updates and potentially a report from our superintendent on the state of school facilities. Again, thank you for joining in. Again, thank you to everyone who supported the SORT and, of course, the school children of Guam. Have a great week.
Thank you.